Okay, we'll start now. Can you give me your name?
My name, official name is Clarence Douglas Getz. My dad's name was Clarence also, so I went by my middle name. So in the jumpers I was Doug Getz.
Doug Getz, okay. And when were you born? What date?
I was born July 30, 1933.
And do you know that you're being video recorded?
Oh yes, I'm very much.
Okay. Where were you born?
I was born in Kalispell, Montana, native boy.
And what was your family doing up there?
My dad was the manager of the Summers Lumber Company General Store in Summers, Montana at that time. And so I was born in Kalispell. They didn't have a hospital in Hot Springs, or in Summers rather.
So were you raised in Summers?
I was raised in Summers till I was halfway through the second grade, and then we moved to North Dakota. We got to North Dakota just a few weeks before World War II started. My dad bought a business in North Dakota, and he had an implement business, a cream station, a post office, and a general store. And during the war, of course, the implement business and the farm-all tractors and things were not available, so that part of it was kind of stymied. But we was very successful there. We were there for 4 years, and then we came back to Summers. And he got his job back with the Summers Lumber Company store. Summers Lumber Company store was a Great Northern store, as the sawmill and the tie plant and stuff, that all belonged to the Great Northern Railroad. So,
Well, what was the town back in North Dakota that you had the post office at?
Lincoln Valley, North Dakota. And as an interesting sidelight, I talked to one of the Fish and Game pilots from North Dakota a few years ago. And I told him about Lincoln Valley, North Dakota, and he said, there isn't any such place. And I said, well, there was. And he said, I don't think so. Anyway, when he went home, he sent me a picture of the one surviving building of Lincoln Valley. And I think it was the church building. It was across the street. It was actually on the edge of town. And I can't believe that all that was turned into farm fields, because we had a shelter belt, we had a big barn, we had a chicken coop, we had a garden, and other people did too. But it was a retirement village where when they retired from the farm, they came into, some of them came into town, and so there was very few kids there. So we had to go to a country school about 1.5 miles out of town, and we walked out there in good weather, and then when it got bad, why, my dad had a 39 Plymouth sedan, and he took us out to school. And in the springtime, when we were walking to school, we used to drown out gophers on the way because the ditches were full of water.
Was that a one-room school?
I'll say one-room school, but there was a couple grades missing. Yeah, the one-room school.
So you got back to Summers, you were just getting about high school age then?
No. I come back. My folks, no, the reason I'm confused is my folks sent me to live with my grandparents in Kalispell for my 5th and 6th grades. I think I went to St. Matthew's School in Kalispell. And then when we moved back to Summers, I continued to go to St. Matthew's, and I rode the high school bus up and back from Summers.
So did you finish high school in Kalispell?
No, my dad bought a business in Hot Springs, Montana, and we moved there. And we moved there the day before I started high school, which put me in a kind of a disadvantage. You talk about being a total stranger, and that was the day before I started high school. So I graduated from Hot Springs, Montana.
Okay, so you lived, and then when you left there, where did you go next after high school?
I went to the United States Navy. I went through the boot camp in San Diego, and then I was sent to a photographic school in Pensacola, Florida. So I came out of there as an aviation photographer. And then I went back to North Island, San Diego, in the Fleet Air Photo Lab there for about 19 months. And then I went to Japan and went to the Atsugi, Japan, in the Fleet Air Photo Lab on that base, and I spent the rest of my enlistment there.
Was that a 4-year enlistment?
Yes.
Okay, so was that during the Korean War?
Yeah, I was in there during the Forgotten War.
Yeah. So were you involved with processing photos off the Korean Peninsula?
Yes, a little bit. Some of the aerial photos and gun camera stuff, and yeah, we did. I was actually in a motion picture section when I was in San Diego, and so when I got to Japan, they put me in charge of the 16 millimeter processing machine and editing and that sort of thing. So that was one of my tasks when I was over there.
Okay, now, so you're getting out of after the Korean War, you're getting out of the Navy. Had you been exposed to the outdoors up to that time? Had you been, besides drowning gophers?
Oh, well, actually I've been a marksman and I shouldn't say I've been a shooter all of my adult life. When I lived in Summers, I used to take my .22 and go down into the lumberyard and shoot gophers down in there. And when I was, let's see, what did that happen? My dad, right after the war, he sent me over to his office in the store to get something out of his desk. And when I opened up that drawer, here was a brown Colt box. And in that box was a brand new Colt 22 automatic, a Woodsman, pre-war model Woodsman, but it was made right after the war. So I grabbed that box up and I run home, and he said, "All right," he said, "that's your gun. You can have it, but you've got to be cognizant and responsible." And I was. I used to take that gun by myself, and I walked west on the street. We lived on the main street in Summers. And I walked past the doctor's office, over a little hill, down across Highway 93 and across Sleepy Hollow, which was a residential area, and over the ridge. And on the other side of the ridge was the city dump. And it was a multitude of all kinds of targets. And I had been reading about how to shoot pistols, and there was an FBI agent from Summers, Montana named Dino Fopp. And he was an instructor for the FBI in their shooting. And I'd been to see him and knew about him and watched him give instruction to the police in Kalispell. And so before I left Summers to move to Hot Springs, I was shooting bottles in the air with that pistol. Not multiple bottles, but one bottle. And I was proficient, and I followed that through. I ended up, before my hand went paralyzed, I had a master's qualification in pistol, in bullseye, and also in combat masterpiece shooting. So reason I mentioned my hands, I had a ruptured disc in my neck here. How long ago, Mom?
30 years.
30 years ago, when my hand went paralyzed, and it's kind of spastic now. And I couldn't even dial a telephone with this hand at that time because I couldn't push the numbers up. And if you remember the dial telephone.
Oh yeah. You're a left-handed shooter?
Yes, I was. Mm-hmm.
So that was shooting that got you outdoors, besides just living in a small town. So you're back from the Navy. Then what did you do next?
I went to Carroll College, and while I was at Carroll College, I met Bob Whaley and some other people, and I don't know if that's a name that rings a bell with you, but anyway, I found out about this jumper program, and I went jumping. My first year jumping was in '58.
So you just applied directly to the smoke jumpers.
Right.
You hadn't worked for the Forest Service before or anything?
Well, actually, I had very minimal experience with fires, but there was an old, see, Hot Springs was on the Indian reservation, and what the hell was his name? Anyway, he recommended me. I've been on a couple of fires with,
Yeah.
but it was very minimal.
Was
I
some of
didn't
the
know
native
any.
crews?
What?
Was some of the Indian crews?
No, it was just pickup crew.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything organized at all.
Yeah. So you started in '58, and how long did you jump?
7 years.
7 years. And so, do you remember the training in 1958? It was at Missoula, I take it.
Mm-hmm.
So what did it consist of?
What did it consist of?
Yeah.
Mostly it was fire, and it was divided up. We started training in the units at that time too. It was kind of mixed up. But we had to go out and dig a bunch of fire lines, and we had instruction on use of spurs so we could climb and retrieve our cargo chutes and parachutes and hang phone lines. And it was just a general. I'm sure it hasn't changed.
Did you have any trouble with it at all? Any trouble with the physical part of it?
No.
What about the jumping part of it?
Well, the jumping part of it was fun.
Okay.
That wasn't any problem.
Any problems at all during the training cycle when you were jumping?
Not-
Nothing that comes to mind?
No, nothing spectacular.
So, do you remember some of your early fire jumps when you were just a new man or just fresh into the program? Started giving you some experience.
Well, actually, when I left the training, I went to Grangeville.
Oh,
So I was a Grangeville jumper. We had 16 jumpers over there, I believe it was. The boss was, he was a school teacher that first year. I knew his name this morning. I was thinking of it. I can't think of it now. Anyway, that first year I think I got 6 or 8 jumps. And they're all two-manners and nothing.
pretty routine.
Yeah, because we took care of the little things, and when we got something going, why they would go to Missoula and they would come over and reinforce us.
So, when did you started getting promoted, didn't you? You got to be a squad boss or a foreman or?
Okay, I went to Grangeville the first year, then I came back to Carroll College, and that was 15. I went to Alaska and got married right after the jump season. And Susan and I took up residence in Missoula, and where was I? What was that question?
You know, I was asking about your career progression in the jumpers. You know.
Oh, yeah, okay. I wanted to go to New Mex, so
To Silver City.
Silver City. So I went, tried to go there, and I did. Went down there for 2 years in a row, and I became a squad leader, and then I eventually was a foreman. I had the crew in Grangeville the last year I was jumping.
Well, that Silver City bunch, that was kind of a